They say life can end without death. That night, as rain slammed against the window and silence filled the house, I realized mine already had. The sound of the storm outside seemed almost alive, howling, thrashing, pressing its grief against the walls like it wanted in. Inside, everything was still. No TV humming, no clock ticking. Only her own shallow breaths breaking the quiet. Lena sat motionless on the couch, surrounded by the remains of a life that, just a day ago, had meaning. His coffee mug still sat on the table. His jacket, still hanging by the door. The faint trace of his cologne lingered in the air like a ghost refusing to leave. She stared at it all with the emptiness of someone whose soul had already slipped out of her body. The house was too clean, too quiet. Every reflection of her face in the window looked like a stranger's, pale, swollen-eyed, half gone. She didn't cry anymore. There were no tears left to fall, only the dull ache of disbelief that refused to fade. Hours, or maybe minutes, had passed since the world ended. Time no longer made sense. In her mind, flashes of before played like broken film reels. Her husband, Daniel, laughing as he burned pancakes on a Sunday morning, the way he'd lean against the counter, pretending not to notice her watching him. Their dog barking in the backyard. Her voice calling his name down the hallway, always answered by his smile. And then, that night, a knock at the door. The flash of red and blue lights bleeding through rain. The look in the officer's eyes before he even spoke. Mrs. Hale? She remembered how her hand froze on the doorknob, how the world seemed to hold its breath. Then the words came, sharp, simple, cruel. There's been an accident. He didn't make it. Her knees gave way before the meaning did. Now, sitting in the dark, she could still see the reflection of those lights on the glass. Could still hear the rain, just like that night. Everything was exactly the same, except him. Her phone screen still glowed beside her. The last message he'd ever sent blinked faintly on it. Neil, be home soon. She'd read it 100 times, tracing the words with trembling fingers as if she could reach through them, back to him. But each time, the finality hit harder, he never made it home. The world had taken everything, yet left behind every reminder. His laughter echoed in the hollow of her chest, cruelly replaying what she'd lost. She rose unsteadily, barefoot on the cold wooden floor, and drifted toward his chair by the fireplace, the one he used to read in every night. She sank to her knees beside it and pressed her face into the worn fabric, clutching the phone to her chest. Be home soon, she whispered. You promised. The storm answered her with a growl of thunder. Somewhere deep inside, the numbness cracked, and sound escaped her at last. Not words. Not even a sob. Just a sound, raw, broken, pulled from a place beyond language. The hours blurred again. The candles on the table melted into nothing. She didn't remember how long she stayed there. At some point, her body gave in, and she fell asleep against the chair, her tears drying on the cushion. But something woke her. A noise. Soft. Real. The house was still dark, but the storm had quieted. The only sound now was the rhythmic ticking of rain off the gutter, until it wasn't. Creak. Her eyes flew open. The front door had just moved. At first, she thought it was the wind, but then came the unmistakable sound of it closing. Slow. Careful. Her breath hitched. Someone was inside. A shadow stretched across the hallway floor, long and deliberate. Her heart pounded so hard it hurt. She couldn't move, every muscle frozen between fear and disbelief. For a second, she thought she was dreaming, that her mind was playing one last cruel trick on her. But then she heard it, footsteps. Wet. Heavy. And a voice. Hoarse, low, familiar. Lena, she dropped the phone. Her blood turned to ice. Because that voice, the one calling her name in the dark, was Daniel's. The silence after his voice was unbearable. Her body went rigid, breath shallow, eyes locked on the shadow in the doorway. Rain poured behind him in silver sheets, thunder rolling far off like a slow drumbeat. A man stood there, drenched, trembling, his hair plastered to his forehead. The hallway light flickered once, just enough for her to see his face. Her world tilted. It was him. It was Daniel. Lena, he said again, the sound soft, fragile, like a memory given flesh. Her knees nearly gave out. No, she whispered. You can't be. The man stepped closer, hands raised in quiet surrender. His eyes, those eyes, were the same shade of storm gray, the same way they crinkled when he looked at her, the same warmth that used to undo her completely. But there was something else. A flicker of confusion. Of pain. I'm sorry, he stammered. My name's Aaron. I didn't mean to scare you. For a moment, she couldn't speak. Her pulse thundered in her ears. Who are you? She demanded, voice shaking. Why are you here? He blinked, his expression uncertain. I don't really know, he admitted, glancing down at his soaked clothes as if realizing for the first time he was even standing there. I woke up months ago, in a hospital up north. They said I'd been in an accident. I couldn't remember anything. Just pieces. A woman's face. A name. He looked up, meeting her eyes. Lena. Her breath hitched. That name, only Daniel called her that. No one else. Her throat closed. The air felt suddenly thin. You're lying, she whispered. I wish I was. The wind howled through the open door, scattering leaves across the floor. She was shivering, but not from the cold. Every instinct screamed danger, but her heart, her stupid, desperate heart, was already cracking open. He looked lost. Not dangerous. Just lost. Without realizing, she stepped aside. Come in, she murmured. Aaron hesitated before entering. The moment he crossed the threshold, something shifted, as if the house itself recognized him. The scent of rain and earth filled the room as he stood there, dripping onto the rug, looking around like someone seeing the place for the first time, and yet, remembering it. His eyes caught the photos on the mantel, her wedding day, Daniel's arm wrapped around her, that same crooked smile. Aaron's face went pale. He trailed off, swallowing hard. That's me. No, she said quickly, too sharply. That was my husband. He's dead. He looked at her, lost, desperate. I don't understand. I shouldn't know this place. But I do. I know this room. The smell of the coffee. That chair, he pointed to Daniel's chair by the fire. I used to sit there and read, didn't I? Her blood ran cold. She backed away, shaking her head. Stop. Please stop. He took a step closer, voice trembling. There's a song, isn't there? You'd hum it when you cooked, something about the lake. I can hear it in my head. Her hand flew to her mouth. The song was theirs. No one else had ever heard it, a tune they'd made up together the night they bought the cottage by the lake. How do you know that? She whispered. I don't know, he said, his voice breaking. I just do. The air between them thickened, grief, disbelief, something raw and dangerous. Every movement he made mirrored Daniel. The way he rubbed the back of his neck when nervous. The slight tilt of his head when he looked at her. But then, something shifted. His expression darkened, eyes clouding over as if a storm passed behind them. He flinched at a sudden sound, the crack of thunder outside, clutching his temples as if it tore through his skull. Elena, his voice trembled. There's something wrong with me. I keep remembering and forgetting at the same time. He stopped, gasping, then reached for her. She froze as his sleeve slipped down his arm. There, on his wrist, was a thin, pale scar. The same one Daniel had. The one he got the summer they rebuilt the fence together. Her vision blurred. That scar, she breathed. How? He looked down at it, startled. I don't know how I got it, he said softly. But every time I see it, I feel, you. Tears welled in her eyes before she could stop them. The room spun. Her voice came out barely above a whisper. Who are you? Aaron's gaze lifted to hers, haunted, tender, unsure. I don't know, he said, almost like a confession. But I think. He took a small, trembling step forward. I think I was meant to find you. The days that followed blurred like rain against glass. Lena moved through them half awake, her emotions pulled between impossible poles, grief and comfort, fear and longing. The stranger who'd appeared at her door was still there, sleeping in the guest room, helping fix the leaky pipes, making her tea the same way Daniel used to, one sugar, no milk. Every gesture was a ghost. Every silence was familiar. And yet, he wasn't Daniel. She told herself that 100 times a day, as if repetition could make it true. But when Aaron smiled, or laughed softly under his breath, or looked at her with those storm-colored eyes, the same eyes that had once seen her soul, the line between past and present dissolved. Still, one question burned between them: why? Why her? Why him? Why the memories neither could explain? They began searching for answers. Together. Aaron had managed to recover fragments of hospital records, an accident, months ago, somewhere outside of Portland. A head injury. Memory loss. Discharged to a rehabilitation center, then gone. The details were incomplete, smudged with bureaucracy and mystery. But one line stood out, buried in a medical note neither of them understood at first. Cardiac transplant performed. Donor, deceased male, 34. Lena froze. Her breath stilled. Cardiac transplant, she whispered, voice barely audible. That means, Aaron looked up, puzzled. That I got someone's heart. The room fell silent, the kind of silence that could shatter bones. She stepped back as if struck. Her pulse roared in her ears. What was the date? She asked. Aaron hesitated, then read it out loud. November 18th. Lena's lips parted. Her voice broke. That's the night my husband died. The words hung in the air, unreal, cruel. Aaron's hands trembled. Lena, what are you saying? She shook her head, tears spilling before she could stop them. I don't know. Her voice caught in her throat. Daniel was an organ donor. The revelation hit like lightning. The world tilted again, dragging her into the same abyss she'd barely climbed out of. He hadn't just reminded her of Daniel, he carried him. Inside him. That night, neither of them slept. Aaron sat by the fire, staring at his chest as if it no longer belonged to him. Lena watched from the hallway, unable to move closer, unable to walk away. The silence between them throbbed like a living thing, equal parts miracle and curse. When dawn came, she found him outside, sitting in the rain beside her husband's grave. I had to see him, Aaron murmured as she approached. To thank him. To understand. The sky was heavy with gray clouds. Rain dripped from the brim of his jacket as he knelt and pressed his hand against the cold stone. Daniel Hale, he whispered. That was you, wasn't it? You gave me this heart. Lena's throat closed. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Aaron's body went rigid. His eyes widened in shock. Daniel, he gasped, the word torn from his chest. His pupils dilated, and his breathing grew ragged. I can hear him. Lena lunged forward, catching him just as he collapsed. His body convulsed once, then went still. Aaron, she cried, shaking him. When his eyes fluttered open, tears streamed down his face. He said, his voice broke. He said, don't let her forget to live. Later, when he woke again, he confessed something even stranger. I've been dreaming, he whispered. Not about my life. About yours. About the cottage by the lake, the wedding, the night he painted your name on the mailbox. I can feel his hands doing it, but they're mine. She stared at him, horrified and spellbound. That's impossible. He looked at her with quiet sorrow. Then why does it hurt so much to see you cry? Her resolve crumbled. You're not him, she whispered, half pleading, half breaking. You can't be. I know, he said softly. But something in me is. The tension cracked like thunder. She turned away, her voice shaking. You think this is fate, don't you? That somehow he led you here? But this isn't love, Aaron. It's grief wearing someone else's skin. His voice trembled. And yet, every time you look at me, it feels like I've been here before. Like my heart remembers what my mind forgot. Her tears fell freely now. Stop. Please stop. But he didn't. I'm not asking you to see him in me, he said, stepping closer, but I can't change what's inside me. His heart beats every time I see you, and I don't know where he ends and I begin. Her chest tightened so painfully she could barely breathe. Then maybe I have to. She turned, stumbling through the open door, into the downpour. The rain swallowed her sobs as she whispered into the storm, I thought I was ready to live again, but maybe I never will. Months had passed. The seasons had shifted. The storm that once tore through her life had long since drifted away, leaving behind only quiet mornings and the soft hum of peace she never thought she'd feel again. The house no longer felt haunted, just still. Gentle. Kind. Lena sat by the window, sunlight brushing her face. The air smelled faintly of lavender and rain. She was writing again, her thoughts, her healing, her goodbyes. The pen moved slowly across the page, each word a small piece of letting go. Her voice, gentle and steady, carried through the silence like a prayer. I used to think the door closed forever the night he died. But maybe some doors never truly close. Maybe they just wait, quietly, for us to be ready to open them again. That morning, she drove to the lake cottage, their lake cottage. The one Daniel had built with his hands, plank by plank, laughter echoing through the trees. It had taken her months to return. The road felt both endless and familiar, lined with golden leaves and old ghosts waving goodbye. When she stepped onto the wooden porch, she felt her heart shift, not with pain this time, but gratitude. The lake shimmered in the distance, still and endless, as if it had been waiting for her. She set down a bouquet of wildflowers on the windowsill, the same kind Daniel used to pick for her every spring. And then, she heard footsteps behind her. Aaron stood there, hands in his pockets, raincoat draped over one arm. His expression was calm, lighter somehow. The storm in his eyes had settled. I didn't think you'd come, she said softly. I almost didn't, he admitted, smiling faintly. But I needed to say goodbye, the right way this time. Lena nodded, her throat tightening. You're leaving? He nodded. Yeah. There's a clinic out west that helps people who've lost their memories. They need volunteers. I thought maybe, it's time I start my own story. The word stung, but not from loss. From something deeper, understanding. You found peace, she said quietly. He looked down, hand resting over his heart. I think so. For a long time, I didn't know who I was. But meeting you, he smiled through the ache. You made this heart feel like it belonged somewhere. Even if just for a little while. Her eyes glistened. You gave me something too. He tilted his head, curious. You reminded me that love doesn't die, she whispered. It just changes form. It becomes memory. Wind. Music. A heartbeat in someone else's chest. They stood there in silence for a moment, the world around them hushed, birds on branches, ripples in the lake, sunlight spilling through clouds. Aaron's voice broke the stillness. Thank you, for giving me a home, even when it hurt to. And thank you, she replied, tears trembling on her lashes, for walking through that door when I thought no one ever would again. He took a step forward, hesitant, reverent, and pulled her into an embrace. It wasn't a lover's hug. It wasn't even goodbye. It was something purer, two souls who'd carried the same heart, letting it rest at last. She felt it then, Daniel's heartbeat, strong and steady, one final echo between them. Not as a ghost, but as love transformed. When he finally stepped back, she smiled through tears. Take care of him, she whispered, nodding toward his chest. I will, he promised. And you, take care of yourself. He turned, walking toward the car. The morning sun spilled over him in gold. Every step felt lighter, freer. Lena watched from the doorway, the same doorway where despair had once entered her life. Now, it let hope out. As he disappeared down the road, the light filled every corner of the house. She closed her eyes and breathed in deeply, the scent of the lake, the hum of the wind, the steady rhythm inside her chest reminding her that she was still here. Still living. Still loving. Her voice, soft and sure, carried one final line into the sunlit air. He walked through my door twice, once to remind me what love was, and once to show me it never really leaves.